Research Institute, Andishe Online-Germany, AOG. Themes from the University. Theme 13. Ostad Elahi's Principles of Faith, Part 2. The Fate of the Soul After Death. Introduction. In the first part of this article, we have examined the first three of Ostad Elahi's principles of beliefs. The conclusion of this study was that any true religion must include these three principles. This is what was established as an unchanging rule for every true religion at the beginning of creation. Therefore, any religion that has not put these three principles on the agenda of its actions and deliberation is either not a true religion or its foundation has been distorted. Of course, such false religions are beyond our discussion. The three principles are: 1. Pay attention to God and pray only to Him. Qibla, Mecca, is in our hearts. 2. What you don't want for yourself, you don't have to want for others, and just as you try to drive away the harm that threatens you, try to ward off the harm in others. Do to others what you want others to do to you, and strive for the benefit of others, just as you strive for your own benefit. 3. Try to know why you came into this world, what you should do, and what will happen when you leave this world. As we have promised, in this article, we will examine the third part of the third principle, that is, the state of the soul after death from the point of view of the University of the Perfection process. Before dealing with the subject, there are four things that are important from the perspective of Ostad Elahi's teachings. A. The word soul is an ordinary term from the point of view of the University of the Perfection process, which suggests that this phenomenon directly created by God has not yet experienced an earthly life. Actually, the word soul refers to a heavenly soul. B. Earthly soul or basharic soul. Souls created by the earthly perfection process. This process begins with the mineral phase, continues through the plant phase, and with the completion of the animal phase, it reaches the highest possible instinctive earthly phase. From this, a perfect earthly soul is created, which Master Elahi called a basharic soul. On the one hand, it is responsible for the natural biologic activities of the body, and on the other hand, with its instinctive animal inclinations and characteristics, it enables the perfection of the heavenly soul. C. Heavenly soul, a soul created directly by God. This is the second part of the true self and the one who must become perfect. It is responsible for all activities involving thought and creativity in general, because it is directly connected to God. D. True self. As soon as a soul is connected for the first time with the body by quantum cord and has experienced the first earthly life, it is no longer considered as a heavenly soul but as a true self or TS. As it is also connected with the earthly soul or basharic soul through this connection. In general, true self equals heavenly soul plus basharic soul. Therefore, in this article, we will talk about the true self or TS instead of the soul at certain points. What happens when you leave this world? What happens to the soul at the time of death will soon be translated and published in different languages under the article title, To the Last Scene. Death means that the connection between the true self and the body, which was established by a quantum cord, is broken. This state can only be very unpleasant for people who have done nothing but evil to their fellow human beings during their lives and have caused them fear, intimidation, and serious harm. This kind of death is called sudden death, which is a very painful death for everyone. This time, when the soul is separated from the body by a gentle break in the quantum cord, is a heavenly, very pleasant and glorious moment. As a result, the true self, together with other souls released from the body, is transported through a magnetic tunnel to the beyond. For each true self after death, the following main events occur. According to Master Elahi's teachings, true selves who have succeeded in completing their process of perfection on earth return directly to the original place in the origin of existence through a specific process and do not need to be taken to the afterlife. The specially created souls, which have been resident on earth for a while as personalities commissioned by God, are directly transported to their own origin, which is different from the origin of ordinary perfect souls. Since a copy of the information of the karma system of each person is available in the archive of the Administrative Department of the Afterlife, the competent officials in the afterlife first know what the general state of perfection of this returned true self is. Therefore, the first step is to determine whether or not this true self has reached the end of the period of perfection. In the second step, two fates are possible for the souls whose legal deadline for the completion of the perfection process has not yet expired. 1. After the calculations and considerations by the competent authority in the afterlife, it is first determined whether this true self may remain in the afterlife in order to continue the process of perfection there in the appropriate environment. This process involves a short, medium or long period of training, which ultimately leads to spiritual perfection in the hereafter. Master Elahi considers such a decision a great gift and privilege to some souls, since a true self only focuses on the essential, that is, on teaching, and thus on the relevant tests. These tests in the afterlife are carried out through various spiritual methods, including the coupling of a true self residing in the afterlife with another true self on earth. In this context, I must point out that a true self in the afterlife can perceive more than 3 dimensions that are known to us on earth. Besides, a true self in the afterlife does not need to work, as there are no earthly wishes and inclinations there. In a part of the book, Knowing the Soul, Master Elahi has scientifically described various types of these tests. 2. The true self immediately enters into another earthly life, which is a kind of punishment. For example, in the case of souls who have committed suicide. Apart from the mentioned true self, the other souls, or TS, after a special period of rest and some training on different levels of the afterlife known as layers of paradise, are coupled by a quantum cord to a body that has its own earthly or basharic soul. What kind of basharic soul belongs to a particular true self that is waiting for a new earthly life in the hereafter is completely dependent on the information of the karma system of the true self. A fetus has only one basharic or earthly soul, which is responsible only for biological activities of the body. Exactly after birth, the true self joins this earthly soul and a new true self is formed. The newborn confirms this connection with the very first cries. In all the above cases, the kindness and generosity of the source of creation will influence all decisions. Everything that is determined in the main lines of the destiny of this true self in this period of life depends on the one hand on the data of the karma system and on the other hand on the mercy and help of God. For the true selves who have wasted the legal deadline to complete the perfection process, 3 possibilities are considered. The first possibility: All data and information about all the lives of this true self are thoroughly examined. If more positive codes than negative ones have been recorded in the database of the soul or karma system, these true selves will accordingly move this data to a level of the hereafter called permanent paradise. The second possibility. The number of negative and positive codes in a true self are approximately or exactly the same. In this case, with God's help, which always works in a positive direction, this true self is moved to one of the lower levels of eternal happiness, paradise or heaven. The third possibility. The number of negative codes is greater than that of positive codes. In this case, this true self will unfortunately be on one of the unpleasant levels of misfortune. There are many debates about whether these true selves, which are in an area called hell, will one day be able to escape from this area. Personally, I believe that not only God, but also some of his manifestations are willing to help these fallen true selves to raise their level over time and thus save them from this environment. However, this can take a very long time due to the negative burden of the karma system. This statement is not a speculation, but is based on some observations. None of the three groups mentioned above must return to the material world or to the world of perfection. As mentioned in the previous article, according to the principles of Ostad Elahi's faith, every person must know where he will go after death and what will happen to him there. The presentation of this article, taken from the works of Master Elahi, facilitates the work and provides us with this valuable information. If we understand correctly what Master Elahi said about the state of the soul after death, we can understand why the true mystics and prophets in the East and West have insisted that their followers always do good deeds, thoughts, and intentions. Research and investigation. Farah Mars Tabish. Source: Ostad Elahi's works.